The first time Gilbert said, "Let's just try it," I genuinely thought he was joking. We were sitting on the hood of his car behind the old high school football field, the same place we'd been sneaking off to since we were 16. It was late past midnight, and the only light came from the flickering stadium lamp that never fully turned off. We'd had a couple beers. Not enough to blame anything on alcohol, but enough to make everything feel a little looser, a little more honest. Gilbert was staring straight ahead when he said it. Calm, casual, like he was suggesting we grab tacos. "Try what?" I asked, even though my chest already felt tight. He finally looked at me then. His jaw flexed slightly, like he was debating whether to backtrack. "You know what?" he said. I did know. That was the problem. Gilbert and I had been best friends for almost 10 years. We met freshman year when he transferred mid-semester and didn't know anyone. I was the quiet kid who sat in the back of math class. He was the loud one who didn't care if people stared. Somehow we clicked instantly. He started sitting next to me, started walking home with me, started showing up at my house unannounced. By senior year, people just assumed we were a package deal. What nobody knew, what I never told him, was that somewhere along the way, my feelings stopped being simple. Gilbert had always been the confident one. Tall, athletic, the kind of guy who could pull off messy hair and a crooked grin like it was intentional. He dated girls. A lot of them. Not in a player way, just in that effortless, they're drawn to him way. And me? I'd known I was gay since I was 15. I just never said it out loud. Especially not to him. Not because I thought he'd react badly. Gilbert wasn't like that. He was open-minded, chill about most things. But there's a difference between supporting something and being inside it. And I didn't want to risk losing the one person who'd been steady in my life for years. So I kept it to myself. Until that night. We'd both just finished our first year of college. Different schools, same city. We still saw each other constantly. Late night drives. Gym sessions. Random food runs at 2 a.m. Nothing had really changed. Except it had. There had been little moments lately. I told myself I was imagining it. Projecting. Then his last girlfriend broke up with him 2 weeks ago. He didn't talk much about it, but I could tell it hit him. He was quieter, more thoughtful, more present when he was around me. And now here we were. "Don't mess with me?" I said quietly, forcing a laugh that didn't sound like mine. "That's not funny. I'm not messing with you." The way he said it made my stomach drop. The air felt heavier suddenly. "You're straight," I said, because it felt safer to say that than anything else. He shrugged slightly. "I've only been with girls, yeah? That's not the same thing." He ran a hand through his hair, something he did when he was thinking hard. "I don't know, Hector. I keep thinking about it." "About what?" My voice came out softer than I meant it to. "About you." That did it. My heart was pounding so hard I was sure he could hear it. I stared at him, searching for any sign this was a dare or some weird experiment. But Gilbert didn't look amused. He looked nervous, and I'd almost never seen him nervous. "You're my best friend," I said carefully. "I know. And if this goes wrong." "I know," he repeated. We sat in silence for a few seconds that felt like minutes. My mind was racing. Every fantasy I'd buried over the years was suddenly clawing its way to the surface. "You've thought about me?" I asked, needing to hear him say it clearly. He nodded once, jaw tight. "Yeah." "Since when?" He let out a slow breath. "I don't know. A while. I just didn't want to screw everything up." That almost made me laugh, because that was exactly why I'd stayed quiet all this time. I looked down at my hands. They were slightly shaking. Not from fear. From anticipation. "If we try it," I said slowly, "it's not just some random thing. I'm not trying to get involved and pretend it didn't happen," he said. I need to know." "Know what?" "If this feeling is real. Or if it's just in my head." The honesty in his voice hit me harder than anything else. For years, I'd imagined him saying something like this. But in those daydreams, I was always confident. Smooth. In control. In reality, I felt exposed. Vulnerable in a way that was terrifying. "Why now?" I asked. He looked at me like the answer was obvious. Because I can't stop thinking about you, and it's driving me insane. My breath caught. The stadium light flickered again, casting shadows across his face. You don't have to, he added quietly. If you're not into it, just say that and we'll forget I ever said anything. That almost hurt. Gilbert, I said, finally turning fully toward him. I've been into you since I was 16. The words hung between us. His eyes widened slightly, not in disgust, not in shock, more like realization. Are you serious? I nodded. Yeah. He stared at me for a second longer, then let out this breathless half-laugh. Wow. Wow good or wow bad? Wow, I've been an idiot. Despite everything, I smiled. Okay, he said softly. Then maybe this isn't as crazy as I thought. Maybe not, I replied, though my pulse was still racing. He hesitated for just a second. Then he said it again. Let's just try it. And this time it didn't sound like a joke at all. For a second after Gilbert said it, neither of us moved. It wasn't some cinematic moment with dramatic music or fireworks. It was quiet, real. Just two guys sitting on a dented car hood behind a field where we'd spent half our teenage years pretending life was simpler than it actually was. But everything felt different now. Gilbert was watching me carefully, like I might disappear if he blinked too hard. You okay? He asked. I let out a shaky breath. Yeah, just trying to figure out if this is actually happening. He smiled a little at that, but there was nerves behind it. Gilbert wasn't used to being uncertain. Usually he walked into situations like he already knew the outcome. Tonight felt like unfamiliar territory for both of us. So, what now? He asked. That question hung there. I thought about all the versions of this moment I'd imagined over the years. In my head, I always knew what to do, but reality had weight to it. History. Consequences. Do you want to go somewhere else? I asked. Gilbert shook his head almost immediately. No, I like it here. I understood that. This place had been our neutral ground for years. Late-night talks, post-game celebrations, vent sessions about school, family, life. Nothing complicated ever happened here. Until now. I keep thinking I'm gonna wake up tomorrow and pretend I didn't say this, he admitted. But I don't want to. My chest tightened at that. You don't have to pretend, I said. He nodded slowly, eyes dropping to my hands again. That nervous habit. It was strange seeing him like this, softer, unsure, almost vulnerable. It made the moment feel more meaningful than any confident move ever could. I've never done anything like this, he said quietly. I know, and I don't want to screw it up. You probably will, I said with a small smile. His head snapped up, mock offense flashing across his face. Wow, thanks. But I probably will too, I added. That's kind of how this works. That made him laugh, a quiet, relieved sound that loosened something in the air between us. Okay, he said. That makes me feel slightly better. We fell into another silence, but this one wasn't awkward. It felt like standing at the edge of something important. Both of us aware that once we stepped forward, there wasn't a simple reset button. Gilbert tapped his fingers against the hood absent-mindedly. Can I ask you something? He said. Yeah. When did you realize? About me? I thought about it. There wasn't one big moment, just a slow accumulation of feelings that eventually became impossible to ignore. Probably when you broke your wrist sophomore year, I said. He frowned. That's random. You kept trying to act like it didn't hurt, remember? And you wouldn't let anyone help you carry your backpack. That sounds like me. I grabbed it anyway and you got all quiet. Not embarrassed, just softer. I don't know. Something about that stuck. Gilbert stared at me for a second like he was replaying the memory. That's the moment? He asked. One of them. He smiled faintly, shaking his head. You remember the weirdest things. I remember important things, I corrected. The way he looked at me after that felt different. Deeper. Okay, he said after a moment. My turn. I raised an eyebrow. That night you fell asleep at my house senior year, he said. We were watching movies and you passed out on the couch. Oh God. I groaned. I drool when I sleep. He He laughed. You didn't drool. Good. But I remember looking at you and thinking, I didn't want you to leave. The honesty in that landed somewhere deep in my chest. I didn't know what it meant, he continued, so I ignored it, like everything else confusing in my life. That tracks. Yeah. The quiet returned again, but now it felt full rather than empty. You're really okay with this? He asked softly. With you, I said. I've been okay with you for a long time. That seemed to steady him. You're the one who suggested it. I know. Still terrifying. We can go slow, I said. There's no deadline. He nodded, relief flickering across his face. Okay, slow is good. But neither of us moved away. You're overthinking, I murmured. I overthink everything important. That's new. He smiled faintly. Only with you. The words hit harder than they should have. My heart was pounding again, but this time it wasn't panic. It was anticipation layered with years of unspoken feelings finally surfacing. Gilbert lifted his hand slightly, then stopped midway. Can I? He started. Yeah, I said before he even finished. His fingers brushed mine first. Just a light touch. Testing. Felt simple. Gentle. But the meaning behind it was anything but. He intertwined our fingers slowly, like committing the sensation to memory. His hand was warm, slightly calloused from years of sports and gym sessions. A hand I'd high-fived, fist-bumped, shoved playfully. Holding it like this felt completely different. Gilbert exhaled shakily. Okay, he whispered, almost to himself. I squeezed his hand once. You're doing fine. He laughed quietly, shoulders relaxing. We sat there like that for a while, hands linked, knees touching, the empty field stretching out in front of us like the rest of the world didn't exist. Then Gilbert looked at me again, expression soft but determined. I think I want to kiss you, he said. And somehow, hearing him say it out loud felt even more surreal than anything else that had happened tonight. When Gilbert said he wanted to kiss me, the world didn't explode. It just narrowed. The field, the car, the distant hum of traffic, all of it faded into background noise. All I could focus on was the way he was looking at me. Not cocky, not playful. Serious. You think. I teased softly, mostly because my heart was beating way too fast and I needed something to steady myself. He rolled his eyes, but there was a nervous smile tugging at his mouth. Don't make it worse. I'm not, I said. I just didn't expect you to sound so unsure. I've never kissed a guy before, Hector. I feel like that's a valid reason to be unsure. Fair point. I studied his face for a second, searching for hesitation, doubt. Anything that might mean this was temporary curiosity. But what I saw wasn't confusion. It was resolve. You don't have to prove anything, I said quietly. Not to me. I'm not trying to prove anything. Then why? He didn't answer right away. His thumb moved slightly against mine where our hands were still intertwined. Because when I picture it, he said slowly, it feels right. You're sure? He asked one last time. I've been sure for years, I replied. When we finally pulled back, it wasn't because either of us wanted to. It was because we both needed to breathe. He stared at me, eyes wide. Okay, he said breathlessly. Couldn't help it, I laughed. Okay. That was. He trailed off, searching for the word. Terrible, I offered. Shut up, he said automatically. Then his expression shifted. That was not terrible. Relief flooded through his voice in a way that made my chest ache. How did it feel? I asked gently. He swallowed. Different, he admitted. But not in a bad way. It didn't feel wrong. That's good. Yeah. He ran a hand through his hair again, slightly dazed. I thought I'd panic or something. Are you panicking? He looked at me carefully. No. There was something grounding about that answer. No theatrics. No sudden freak out. You're still my best friend, right? He asked quietly. Yeah, I said. You're still mine. And this doesn't make it weird? It might, I admitted. But weird doesn't mean bad. He huffed out a soft laugh. You always say stuff like that. Like what? Like you've already thought through every possible outcome. I smiled faintly. I have. Oh, so now you're comfortable? I teased. I'm adjusting, he shot back. We both laughed, and the laughter felt important. Kept the moment from becoming too heavy, too fragile. Gilbert looked out at the empty field for a second, like he was recalibrating his entire understanding of himself. I don't feel different, he said slowly. I still feel like me. You are still you. Yeah, I just kissed my best friend. And, he looked back at me, and I want to do it again. That sent a pulse of heat through me I couldn't fully hide. You're allowed to, I said. He studied me for a second, like he was realizing this wasn't just a one-time experiment. That this door, once opened, didn't automatically close. Hector, he said more seriously now. Yeah, if we keep going, I don't want to treat this like some secret I'm ashamed of. The statement surprised me. You're not ashamed? No. He shook his head firmly. Confused? Maybe, but not ashamed. That mattered more than he probably understood. We don't have to label anything tonight, I said. We don't have to figure out the rest of your life. I know. We just take it one step at a time. He nodded. One step at a time, he repeated. There was a quiet confidence building in him now. Not arrogance, just clarity. I thought it would feel bigger, he admitted. Bigger how? Like some dramatic identity crisis. Like I'd suddenly question everything. And it just feels like I'm kissing you. That simple sentence hit harder than any dramatic confession could have. I smiled faintly. That's because you are. I don't feel like I'm pretending, he said quietly. That's what's messing with me. You've never been good at pretending. True. A comfortable silence settled between us again. But this time, it was charged in a different way. Not tense. Not uncertain. Just aware. He smiled at that, but his eyes darkened, just slightly, curiosity mixing with something warmer. Slow doesn't mean frozen, he said. The confidence creeping back into his voice felt familiar. This was the Gilbert I knew, the one who leaned into things once he decided they were worth it. You ever think about this? He asked quietly. About what? About us like this. I laughed under my breath. You really want the honest answer? Yeah. All the time. He held my gaze for a second, searching for exaggeration. I wish you'd told me, he said. I didn't want to mess it up. By doing what? Wanting more than you could give. His expression softened. You never asked, he said. I didn't think I had the right to. Gilbert's jaw tightened slightly at that. You always had the right, he said firmly. I just didn't know what I'd say. There was no accusation in his voice. I keep thinking about tomorrow, he admitted. What about it? What if I wake up and this feels different? That's possible, I said honestly. He blinked, maybe expecting reassurance instead. But feelings changing doesn't mean tonight wasn't real, I added. It just means you're figuring stuff out. He absorbed that slowly. You always do that, he said. Do what? Make complicated things feel manageable. I smiled faintly. That's because most complicated things are just scary, not impossible. Gilbert looked at me for a long second after that, the kind of look that says more than words. I don't want to lose this, he said quietly. You won't. You can't promise that. No, I admitted, but I can promise we'll talk instead of pretending. That seemed to steady him more than false certainty ever could. A breeze rolled across the field again, and Gilbert shivered slightly. You cold? I asked. Little. I slipped off my hoodie and handed it to him without thinking. He laughed softly as he pulled it on. This smells like you, he said. That's usually how clothes work. He nudged my shoulder. You know what I mean. I did. Gilbert settled back against the windshield slightly, still facing me, sleeves covering part of his hands. You know what's funny? He said. What? If someone drove by right now, they'd just see two guys hanging out. I glanced around the empty lot. That's technically accurate. Yeah, he said softly. But it feels different now. It did. Not in a dramatic, world-altering way. more like a quiet redefinition. Gilbert reached over, absent-mindedly playing with the drawstring of the hoodie. "Are you scared?" he asked. I considered it. "A little." "Of what?" "That this matters more to me than it does to you." The honesty slipped out before I could filter it. Gilbert stilled. "Hector," he said, voice low. I looked up. "I'm here, aren't I?" It was such a simple answer, but it landed deeply. "I don't know what this is yet," he said. "But I know I didn't have to come here tonight." "That's true. I didn't have to say anything." "Also true." "But I did," he finished. The weight of that settled warmly in my chest. Gilbert reached for my hand again, natural now, automatic. Our fingers laced together without hesitation this time. "Do you regret telling me?" he asked. "No. Not even a little?" "Not even a little." He smiled, tension easing from his shoulders. "Good," he said, "because I really don't regret kissing you." My pulse jumped at the bluntness. Yeah. He squeezed my hand lightly. "I think I'd regret not doing it." That was very Gilbert, impulsive when something felt important. We sat like that for a while, hands linked, talking about nothing and everything. Random college stories, dumb memories from high school, the normal rhythm of our friendship weaving seamlessly through this new layer neither of us fully understood yet. Eventually Gilbert glanced at the time on his phone and groaned. "It's almost 2. Wow. My mom is definitely going to text me in the morning asking if I'm alive." I laughed. "Same." Neither of us moved though. "You don't want to leave yet," he observed. "Do you?" He shook his head. Silence again. "I could get used to that," he murmured. I smiled. Yeah. For the first time that night, the uncertainty didn't feel overwhelming. It just felt like the beginning of something we hadn't named yet. We didn't rush anything after that. That might have been the most surprising part. "You're quiet," I said eventually. He huffed a small laugh. "I know. Inside your own head?" "Yeah." He squeezed my hand once. "I'm just replaying everything." "Good replay or overthinking replay?" "Both." That sounded about right. He leaned back slightly against the windshield, pulling me with him so we were sitting shoulder to shoulder now instead of fully facing each other. The field stretched out in front of us, dark and empty. "Can I tell you something weird?" he asked. "You've already kissed your best friend tonight. I think we're past weird." He smiled at that. "I always thought if I ever questioned this stuff it would feel chaotic. Like my whole identity would crack open. And it doesn't." He glanced at me. "It feels like I just unlocked something I ignored. That hit deeper than he probably meant it to. Does that scare you?" I asked. "A little," he admitted. "But not because of what it is. More because I don't know what it means yet." I nodded slowly. "You don't have to know tonight." "I know." He exhaled. "I just don't want to hurt you while I figure it out." There it was again, that awareness. "You're not going to hurt me by being honest," I said quietly. "You'd hurt me by pretending." He went quiet at that. "I don't want to pretend," he said after a second. "Not with you." The sincerity in his voice grounded everything. A car passed distantly on the main road beyond the field, headlights briefly flashing across us before fading away again. Gilbert watched the lights disappear. "Do you think this changes how people see me?" he asked suddenly. I didn't answer right away. "It depends who you tell," I said carefully. "I mean in general. Most people won't know unless you want them to." He nodded, jaw tightening slightly. "And if I decide I don't want people to know yet?" he asked. "That's your call." He looked at me then, searching. "But," I added gently, "I won't be your secret." He went very still. I hadn't meant to drop that so bluntly, but it needed to be said. "I don't mean you have to announce anything," I clarified. "I just mean, I won't pretend I'm just some experiment you tried once." Gilbert's expression shifted, not defensive. Thoughtful. "Is that what you think this is?" he asked. "No," I said honestly. "But I need to know it's not." He let go of my hand only long enough to turn fully toward me again. His palm cupped the side of my face, not hesitant this time. "You're not an experiment," he said firmly. You're Hector. The way he said my name made my chest tighten. And I didn't come here tonight because I was bored, he continued. I came because I couldn't ignore this anymore. I held his gaze. I'm not promising I have everything figured out, he said. But I am promising that you matter. That was enough. More than enough. I don't want this to end with tonight, he murmured. It doesn't have to. But it might get complicated. It probably will. He laughed softly. You're really not selling this. I'm not trying to sell it, I said. I'm trying to be real. Gilbert studied me for a long second, then nodded. Okay, he said quietly. Then here's real. He took a breath. I want to see where this goes. The words weren't dramatic. They weren't a declaration of love. But they were steady, intentional. And I don't want to pretend tomorrow that we're exactly the same as before. My pulse picked up again. We won't be, I said. Good. Then he leaned back, looking up at the sky. I feel lighter, he admitted. Yeah. He glanced at me with a faint smile. Like I've been holding something in for years and finally said it out loud. I couldn't help smiling back. Welcome to my world. He nudged me with his shoulder. You waited way too long to tell me. You were dating half the city. Still, he said, you should have trusted me. I do now. He held my gaze for a second. Good, he said softly. For the first time all night, the tension wasn't about uncertainty. It was about possibility. We didn't notice how late it had gotten until Gilbert's phone buzzed in his pocket. He groaned immediately. That's my mom. Are you alive? I guessed. Exactly that, he said, glancing at the screen. He didn't answer, just typed something quick and shoved the phone back into his pocket. You should probably go, I said. Yeah. Neither of us moved. The reality of leaving suddenly felt heavier than anything that had happened so far. Sitting here in the dark, tucked away from the world, was easy. Tomorrow, daylight, normal routines, other people, that was going to be different. Gilbert looked at me like he was thinking the same thing. So, what do we do now? He asked. About us. The word landed differently than it ever had before. I took a breath. Tomorrow we wake up. We text like we always do. We don't pretend tonight didn't happen. He nodded slowly. And if it feels weird? He asked. Then we say that. And if it doesn't? Then we keep going. Gilbert studied me carefully, like he was weighing every possible outcome. You're really not scared? He asked. I am, I admitted. But I'd be more scared of losing the chance to see what this is. That seemed to hit him. I've never wanted to do something this much and been this unsure at the same time, he said quietly. That's kind of how you know it matters. He gave me a look. You have a quote ready for everything. I've had years to prepare. He laughed under his breath, shaking his head. You really have, he said. There was a pause. Then his expression shifted, not nervous, not confused, determined. Okay, he said firmly. Here's what I know. I waited. I know I care about you, not just as my best friend. And I know kissing you didn't feel like a mistake. My heart thudded harder. And I know I don't want to wake up tomorrow and go back to pretending I don't think about you. The air between us felt charged again, but steadier now. I'm not promising I have labels, he continued. I'm not promising I suddenly understand everything about myself. I'm not asking you to, I said. But I am promising, he added, that I'm not walking away from this just because it's complicated. That was the first moment it felt real in a lasting way. Not just curiosity, not just impulse. Choice. I swallowed. Okay, I said softly. He searched my face. That's it? Just okay. I smiled. It's a good okay. He looked relieved at that. He said quietly. That if this works, my whole life just shifted. I gave him a small smile. Yeah. And you're okay being the reason? You're not doing this for me, I said gently. You're doing it because you want to. He held my gaze. Yeah, he admitted. I do. The stadium light flickered again above us. The same one that had buzzed through countless nights of dumb teenage conversations. Only this time, it felt like it was watching something bigger unfold. Gilbert finally slid off the hood of the car, holding out his hand to help me down. I took it, but instead of letting go, he laced our fingers together again, natural now, like it belonged there. We stood facing each other for a second in the quiet lot. "This is crazy," he said softly. "Yeah." He squeezed my hand once. "But it feels right." I nodded. "Yeah," I said. "It does." "I'll text you when I get home," he said. "You better." He smirked. "I always do." Then he stepped back, walked around to his side of the car, and got in. As he drove off, I stood there for a minute, replaying everything in my head. The words, the kisses, the way he'd said, "I'm not walking away." For the first time in years, I didn't feel like I was hiding anything. I felt like something had finally begun. And the crazy